Hi, I'm Alex. Normally my role at Duke Homestead is maintaining our grounds, historic buildings, and museum. Today we're doing something a little bit different that uses some skills from my past career. I was a chef for about a decade and worked at some amazing resorts and hotels around the country. We're going to see if I can use those skills from my past to bring some historic recipes to life. Today's recipe I'm going to read to you comes from the Carolina Housewife. Wheat biscuit number 1. 1 tumbler of milk, 1 quart of wheat flour, 2 teaspoons of cream of tartar, 1 teaspoon of soda, 1 teaspoon of salt. Mix the soda and salt with the milk, sift the cream of tartar and flour together, stir the milk and flour together, and make the dough either into rolls or biscuits. Bake in a quick oven about 20 minutes. Now, a couple things about this that are kind of interesting for this recipe is quite often in some of these historic recipes, they won't give you kind of the time it takes for cooking. They'll often say cook until done, and that gets a little tricky, and we can talk about that some more in a little bit. It also gives pretty easy measurements for the dry ingredients for the flour. Classically, they're done by weight, and I can talk about that a little bit when I'm scaling that out too. But this is going to be a little bit different than what you think of as a modern biscuit. Big, fluffy, light. It's probably going to end up being a little bit denser than what you're maybe accustomed to. And we can talk about that a little as we evaluate the product as well. I have here a quart of flour. Now, normally for baking, particularly outside of North America, you'll go by weight. Weight tends to be a lot more accurate, particularly for baking for dry ingredients, because one of the things that throws them off is the moisture content of the flour. So the difference of the moisture content makes a huge difference in how much moisture it needs when you're adding your ingredients in, and therefore really changes how it's going to go. So into this flour, we're going to add the baking soda, our wet ingredients now. So it calls for a tumbler of milk. As far as I was able to research, a tumbler of milk is approximately a half a pint. So that's what we have here. We might need to play with that a little bit as we're going. So into that, we're going to add our salt and our cream of tartar. Now, the cream of tartar and the baking soda are going to have a little chemical reaction. And that's where we're going to get our leavening for this. So we'll mix this together. See, and this is where I suspected our dough is just a little bit dry. So I'm going to add just a little bit more milk into this. All right, now let's bring this out onto our table. A little bit of flour on top so that we can roll our biscuit out. And then I'm just going to use this to cut it. It gives us our nice biscuit shapes. I'm going to take a nice pan and I'm going to grease it up so that our biscuits don't stick. And for this, I'm just using a little bit of shortening, but some cooking spray would work fine, some unsalted butter would work fine. There's really a lot of options for that. So now, just going to form this biscuit up a little. So it's nice and pretty and round. So it calls for these biscuits to be baked in a quick oven, and I'm gonna call it today 400 degrees. So we're gonna check back on them in probably about 15 minutes. So now we're gonna take a little look. So we'll give them 5 more minutes. Let's give these biscuits another look. They're getting a little more color to them. And their bottoms are brown. So I think we're going to call these done. We're going to have a short lesson on flour now. Modern white flour is made from only the endosperm of the wheat berry. During the milling process, it is refined and the 3 parts are separated: bran, germ, and the white flour. Unfortunately, when the bran and germ are taken from the endosperm, most of the nutrients are also taken away. This refinement became more commercially possible after wheat milling switched from stone grinding to a steel roller process. This not only has a nutritional effect, but also changes how the flour reacts in recipes. Organic whole wheat flour is similar to historic flour, but will still have some differences due to the modern milling process and differences in what type of wheat it is made from. Now let's take a look at these biscuits. They are a little bit denser than what you're used to. They definitely don't have the rise, they don't have the layers like you normally think of when you think of biscuits. And so I think that may be a little bit of a misconception when we think of like old-timey, like awesome biscuits. Let's try one. Flavor on them's good, but definitely not that light, fluffy, airy biscuit that we're used to. But I'm going to enjoy this one with a little bit of butter and some molasses on it. And I think it might be just all right.